What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We're working on the 86 again. We got some goodies from JSP, so we purchased the billet 4 links from them. Really gorgeous pieces. So John, if you're watching this, you hit it out of the park with this. This is going to square up the rear end, and the great thing about the 4 links from John is it has this kind of curvature for the upper links on the rear end. So for those Corollas that are really low, you don't get the hitting ability when you're running a straight bar at the top of the 4 links. This has a curvature and it's adjustable, so you can cater it to your chassis. And then we also have the squat bars, or sorry, like squat brackets that allow you to adjust 50 mil and 75 millimeters of adjustment for the 4 links. So the bottom links, so they go here. So we're going to be installing that. It's the last OEM pieces on the car that we have to change out, and then we're finally ready to take the car to get corner balance. But yeah, should be pretty straightforward. I watched some of the JSP tutorial videos already. So if you're watching this, enjoy. All right, so we're gonna slide the squat bracket right over this part on the rear end. So this is originally, this hole right here is where originally the bottom link bolts through. So we're gonna slide this right over. There's this massive hole up here that you have to align. So a little tricky since I have to be on the back end, but it's a 17 millimeter bolt. I'm just gonna try to get it in here. Yep. Then you get a washer and one of the nylon nuts. We're gonna tighten it ugga tight, just so that once we install the bottom links, everything's square. We make sure everything's fitting correctly. There is a piece on the back of the bracket right here where my finger's at. You can't really see it, but it's supposed to be making contact with the actual rear end beam itself. So there's this piece right here where the strut's bolted to. It's actually resting against that right now. So hand tighten this right now, and then we're going to put the other bolt, and we should be good to go. We loosely tightened, contradictory, the 2 bolts holding the squat bracket to the actual rear end. And now there's this spacer that goes where the OEM 4 link used to bolt onto, which is right here. So you slide it through the bottom. You have to kind of finesse it a little bit. And then this included long bolt right here. You bring it through the back. The reason we leave that 4 link a little loose is just so that we can put the bolt through. And then we have the nut in the back. So there you go. Now, same thing with this. We'll just kind of like hand tighten everything. But yeah, that's how it goes on this side. And then we'll go on to the other side and do the same thing. Okay, so JSP supplied some energy lube for the bushings. So what we did is we used just a little 3/8 extension. We kind of lightly tapped the sleeves out of the bushings. So we're gonna lube up the bushings just like this. A little bit of lube in there. Obviously, you want to get everything lubricated on both sides. And then you just pretty much slide the sleeve all the way through, and then just clean up any excessive lube right here, you know? And we'll do the same for the other three. And then we'll get to installing the bottom links on the squat bracket and on the chassis. All right, so we lubed up the sleeves for our bushings on the bottom two links. It only goes one way, so the JSP should be right side up. So if the JSP logo right here on the center is upside down, you have it wrong. So we're gonna put the first one into our chassis. And long ago, before we owned this car, somebody damaged this, so I fixed this not too long ago. And then right here, we're gonna have to loosen our bolts just a little bit to wiggle everything into position. But essentially, I'm gonna put it at the bottom position right here, which is 50 mils, because our car's not that low. The bottom one is apparently 75 millimeters. So kind of loosen a little bit of the hardware here so I can get this to line up correctly, and then we'll slide it, we'll tighten everything down and it should be in good position. Okay, so we came across a little pickle when we installed the bottom link. It wasn't lining up with the squat bracket. So what we did was we loosened the bolts for that main sleeve and also the ones at the top holding the squat bracket to the rear beam, but it was still not lining up. It looked like almost a 1/4 inch. So what we did was we ended up just raising the rear end a little bit, and truth be told, it aligned with the bracket. So we were able to wiggle it and get everything through without having to like negotiate it through with a mallet or anything. So now we're gonna tighten everything. Actually, no, I lie. We're gonna set up the other side as well, and then we'll tighten everything on the bottom end for the two links, and then we'll work our way up to the top links. But yeah, if it's not lining up, lift up the rear end a little bit and it should line up perfectly. Okay guys, so we finished the driver's side, US obviously. We torqued everything down to 75 foot-pounds per JSP's instructions. I did all the bolts. They're all the same spec bolts, 10.9. I left it at the 50 millimeter setting just because my 86 isn't very low, but you do have that 75 millimeter setting for those who have a really low car. I don't have that, so I didn't really have to worry about it, but we'll know once we actually put the car on the ground. So we're gonna finish on the passenger side, and then we're gonna get started on the upper two links, and we should be close to done. Okay, so off camera, we took off the upper links, which are straight, as you can see. Well, as straight as possible. They kind of have an angle to them. And this is the difference. On the JSP one, they're angled, so when they go over the beam, they're not gonna hit, as opposed to a straight angle like the OEM ones. So we already lubed up the sleeves for the bushings on the upper links, and now we're gonna unscrew some of these jam nuts and then get everything set on the car, and then we should be pretty much ready to go. Okay, so we installed one of the upper links. Didn't really record like me actually physically putting it in there. It's really congested here. We have like the fuel lines, the sway bar, the bottom link. It's just kind of everything's in the way. So the great thing is there's adjustability on the nuts, the jam nuts on the actual Heim joint. So you're able to adjust it forward and back so you can line up the rear bushing, the black poly bushing. So that was actually really helpful because at first it wasn't lining up, and then I started adjusting it maybe a 1/4 turn at a time, and truth be told, it was aligned, and then I just kind of pumped the jack just a little bit so everything just went through. So this bolt goes from the outside by the wheel inward. So outside of the wheel, or where the wheel's at, and then it goes inward. So we just hand tighten everything, and then we're gonna do the other side as well, and then we'll tighten everything up, and we should be solid. Okay, so it's 2 days later. We ran out of sunlight when we were actually working on the car and finishing up the upper links. But as you can see, everything is bolted down and torqued. So we torqued the bolts that go into this pocket to put the Heim joint in there. And also the black bushing back here. It's kind of a little hard to see, but that's on the actual beam of the rear. We had some challenges getting this lined up. I did watch the videos that John posted on the install tutorial. So it required us to take it on and off a couple times just to kind of get it within the range that we wanted it. So pretty much if we were to slide the upper link on, all the holes would align on the chassis and on the differential side. So once we got that, we put the jam nut and this adjuster close to each other. And then we were able to get our wrenches, which JSP provided, so that we can tighten everything down. And then the jam nut here as well. Well, sorry, this is the jam nut. Technically, yeah, this is a jam nut as well. But yeah, we got everything in spec and torqued down. And this little part was the only challenging part for us. It's such a confined space in this little box. So getting the wrench to move the way you would traditionally move a wrench was the hard part, because you can't really like rotate it a lot. And then you also have like the e-brake, and then on this side we had the fuel lines giving us issues. But I would say that was the most challenging part of everything. The bottom links were super easy, but I'm really happy with how everything turned out. It's really nice looking. These pieces are, you know, chef's kiss. And then, like I mentioned in the video earlier, it provides clearance up here, so you see how it's curved as opposed to being a straight line. So for those very lowered Corollas, if this was straight, you'd be hitting this part of the beam. But since it's curved, it gives you a lot of clearance. So that's a nice benefit to these 4 links. So overall, we're done here. Gotta have to tidy up a couple things on the 86, which we're not really gonna put on video. So next is we need to get the rear fenders cut a little bit, because I don't want that sheet metal making contact with the tires. And then corner balance, and then it's time to get ready for the track. Thanks for tuning in.